Hey there. Welcome to episode 2 of Secret Histories, which is what I've decided to call this video series. Um, so many of you enjoyed the one I did yesterday for No Rest for the Wicked that I've decided that I will continue to do these. I'm going to go in chronological order through all the books I've written um, and talk about my memories of them, the stories behind their creation, and what was going on when they came out, etc. Uh, I'll do that for all of my novels, all of my novellas, all of my short story collections, as I said, in chronological order. I won't talk about multi author anthologies except for this one, 4 by 4, because in many ways, this is one of the most important books I was ever involved with for me personally. Um, I've shown you before the original artwork, which was done by our dear friend Gak, hangs on the wall over my desk. I've shown you that in other videos. You may know that this same image is tattooed on my back, takes up about half my back. Um, I have nothing but fond memories for this book. It was published in 2001, same year as No Rest for the Wicked. We were all starting out, uh, you know, and it was Mike Oliveri, Jeff Cooper, Michael T. Hike Jr., and myself. And we there were other people in our friend group, of course. There was J.F. Gonzalez, there was Weston Oakes, Ryan Harding, Rain Graves, Regina Mitchell, John Urbansick. Um, but rightly or wrongly, it was the four of us who had been tagged as the bad boys amongst the up and coming horror writers, and some of that was deserved. We were inspired by many people, but most importantly by the splatterpunk movement 10 years before us. David J. Scow, Skip Inspector, and splatterpunk adjacent stuff, the early extreme horror of people like Edward Lee and Richard Lehman and Jack Ketchum. Um, and we personified that. Early on, the media started calling us gangsta horror. They were looking for something new like splatterpunk to latch onto, and gangster rap was very big at the time. It was around the time that NWA broke up and Dr. Dre dropped the Chronic, and Ice Cube was having a successful solo career, and Ice-T was starting to get big. Wu-Tang was starting to come along. Um, they called us gangsta horror, despite the fact that there were only two people of color in the entire group, Wrath and Jesus, and neither of them gangsters. That is something we shut down pretty quick, because even in 2000, 2001, we recognized that there were all kinds of really bad connotations to go along with that. We didn't coin the phrase. We weren't above letting others describe us as that for a little bit so that we could get noticed. But then once we got noticed, we shut that shit down. And this is the book that got us noticed. Before The Rising, before Mike was the first of us to win the Bram Stoker Award. He won for his first novel, Deadliest of the Species. So before that, before The Rising, before Coop's super hard to find now, but very popular at the time, Bum Piss and Other City Scents, before Mikey really became renowned as an editor. It all started with this book, this collection. 4 stories by 4 authors, except it's more than 4 stories, isn't it? But let's talk about the cover first. This was Gak. Gak was an integral part of our group. Miss him all the fucking time. Gak drew each of these as personifications of us. According to Gak, this was me, this was Oliveri, this was Coop, and this was Mikey. And they do, I think, personify us. this is the limited edition. There were only 2 editions of this book published. Limited edition signed hardcover, and of course the trade paperback. Both were published by Delirium Books. There was never a lettered edition. There has never been a reprint. This was copy number 96, signed by all of us. Ray Garton penned an introduction. Ray signed it as well. Gak signed it as well. But as I said, there were more than just 4 stories. We each had a solo story, and then we would each collaborate. So Coop opened it. Then Coop and I collaborated. That story, Wild Kingdom, I had started an early story about Frankie from The Rising and the zoo. And, Coop and I, we fleshed out this short story. If you notice, there's a very similar sequence in The Rising. And of course, we now know, from the Labyrinth mythos, 2 different Frankies, two different worlds, 2 different outcomes. So it was an early hint of my Labyrinth mythos. Earthworm Gods, of course, by me. The early novella version that would then later on become a novel. And then Mike and I co-wrote a story, To Fight with Monsters. Then Mike had his solo story. Then Mike and Mikey did a collaboration. Then Mikey had a solo story. And then to bring us full circle, Mikey and Coop collaborated. And then there was an afterword that all 4 of us wrote together. Our biographies, if I remember correctly, yeah, here's the photo. This was taken by Sephora Giron in Seattle, I think it was. If you notice there behind us, the car thing says crap, but this had been taken after a night at a World Horror Convention. We had stayed up all night drinking, except for Coop. Coop doesn't drink. So this is actually a caffeine buzz. And the 4 of us and Sephora had gone out to a Denny's and, had eaten. And then, afterwards she snapped this photo. And, here are our bios. Coop's primary duties were hostage abduction, witness removal, and corpse disposal. My primary duties were grifting, flirting, eating worms, and sniper attacks. It's just, it was brotherhood, man. It was friendship. It was me and my buddies doing something together, trying to get our names out there, trying to make our mark on horror fiction, trying to resurrect horror fiction, because you have to remember, when this came out, horror fiction was dead. The 90s crash was still a very fresh thing. Nobody was buying or reading horror anymore. It was all underground. We helped bring that shit back. And I don't say that to sound arrogant. I say that because it is a fucking fact. And it started with this little book. So if you're enjoying horror fiction these days, you're welcome. We went on tour for 4x4. And it was a great time. The tour was literally just the West Coast. It was Dark Delicacies in LA. And then I think Mysterious Galaxy in San Diego and Borderlands in San Francisco. Gak accompanied the 4 of us on the tour. Gene O'Neill went on the tour with us. Gene was, of course, established veteran author by then. He was already in his 60s. But he wanted to be our opening act, he called himself. And it was just such a good time. Just road tripping. And we had our first TV interview together, the Jerry Lunch Show, which I have video of. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've put the video here on Patreon somewhere. And on YouTube, if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, because eventually, after these have been on Patreon for a few months, I'll probably put them over on YouTube, share them with everybody. But yeah, I have nothing bad to say about this book or about this time in my career. nothing but the fondest of memories, and I've got a big grin just sitting here looking at it. Um, every publisher on the planet, every small press publisher on the planet, has inquired about the rights to reprint this. Thunderstorm, Cemetery Dance, uh, the list goes on and on and on. I'm not going to sit here and list everybody because I don't want to forget anybody. We've also been offered a ridiculous amount of money to do a sequel to it. All I will say, and I say this again in the spirit of love and joy that came with this. Um, I think Mike and Mikey and myself would absolutely let that happen. Coop would not. And you need to understand it. We enjoy writing. For Coop, the act of writing can actually be very painful. And we don't like making people we love and care about go through something like that if they're not up for it. So, no, I don't know that you'll ever see this get reprinted. I don't know that you'll certainly ever see a sequel. I don't think that will ever happen. Um, we do see copies on eBay all the time, and yeah, they're going for some money, but you're not going to have to sell your home to buy one. But I do recommend if you have the means and you see one pop up on a secondary market, bid on it and track it down, if only because this book makes me really happy whenever I look at it, whenever I think about it. And, it's nice to share that happiness with you. So, after No Rest and after 4x4, of course, came The Rising. And we will talk about that in our next video. Peace.